restrict many of our technicians and specialists from returning to work due to the high concentration of Jung nanites in their bloodstreams. However, since we are only operating 3 of our 4 assembly bays, we are still able to meet the minimum staffing levels for those 3 bays. Unfortunately, due to the number of modifications that we are being asked to perform on the frigates as well as the battleship, work is progressing at a reduced pace on the 2 frigates that have yet to be completed. As it provides the best possible defense for the Tau Ceti system, we have been concentrating our efforts on repairing and modifying the captured Jung battleship per your request. How long until the frigates can be completed at your current staffing levels? Admiral Dumar wondered. At current staffing levels, approximately 6 to 7 months, Mr. Aberdeen replied. At full staffing levels, possibly as little as 4 months. Can the replacements be trained using Cetians with lower nanite concentrations? The Admiral asked. Building ships in space requires highly trained technicians. It takes many months, Mr. Aberdeen explained. Hopefully, we will have an efficient way to remove the Jung nanites long before then, the Admiral commented before turning to the next person. Captain Taylor? The testing of our new broadside cannons yesterday went quite well, Cameron began. We still have a lot of work to do on our inner decks, including the new fighter launch operations deck, the conversion of the old fighter launch tubes into their new configuration, and the installation of the additional elevator systems between the main flight deck and the new hangar deck below. We're also preparing to install the secondary jump field generators and energy banks once they're made available to us. However, all our weapon systems are fully functional, as well as our shields and all flight systems. We are combat ready, sir. How long until the remainder of your internal modifications are complete? The Admiral asked. Latest progress reports estimate 30 days, Cameron replied. Captain Scott? The Admiral turned his attention toward Nathan. Nathan leaned forward in his seat, placing his arms on the table. The Aurora is currently in dry dock. Her nose has been opened and installation of our Mark V plasma torpedo cannons has begun. Repairs to the outer hull are nearly complete, and the installation of 16 Mark I plasma turrets on the underside of the hull has also begun. Reports from the dry dock manager and Lieutenant Commander Kamenetsky indicate that everything is progressing according to plan, and that we should be ready to leave dry dock on schedule in 55 days. After that, another 30 days until all internal modifications have been completed, during which time the Aurora will, of course, continue to be combat ready. Nathan leaned back in his seat as Jessica moved forward slightly, expecting to be called next. However, the Admiral instead addressed Captain Roselle, who sat just beyond Mr. Bryant to the Admiral's right. Captain Roselle, how goes the work on the Jar-Bannock? We started installing the antimatter cores recovered from the engagement with the Eridani forces this morning. Those should all be online in about 4 days, at which time we will be back to full operating power, Captain Roselle reported. Repairs of the decks damaged by Scout 3's escape jump and the subsequent Gottijok boarding will be completed tomorrow, after which we'll start repairs on the outer hull in that area. Also, we're starting the process of converting all the controls and displays on board from Jung into English. Most of the control consoles are touchscreen and are easily reconfigurable. An operator will be able to choose either language, in fact. Anything that is hard-labeled will get secondary labels in English. As far as our combat readiness, we can fight as we are, but we'd be hard-pressed to do anything other than basic maneuvers and firing our weapons. We simply don't have the crew. When we begin switching out our big railguns for big plasma cannons next week, we will do so one at a time as requested, so that we will be able to respond to defend the Tau Ceti system if need be. How long until you have more adequate staffing? The Admiral asked. Well, we have the same problem as Mr. Aberdeen, Captain Roselle explained. A lot of the qualified Cetians volunteering for service have unusually high concentrations of Jung nanites, so we have to turn them away. It'll be a lot easier once we find a way to remove those little bastards. Regardless, I expect we'll have at least 1 full shift manned and trained by the time we are ready to leave the shipyards, so as long as you don't send us on any long-duration missions, we should be okay. Admiral, Mr. Aberdeen interrupted. If I may, once the Jar-Bannock is completed, many of the technicians currently working on her might be available to serve as crew, at least until such time as additional crew can be secured. We'll keep that in mind, thank you, Admiral Dumar replied, as his gaze shifted to the next man after Roselle. Ensign Tallardi? We managed to correct the code that caused the Aurora's jump KKVs to miss their target. It wasn't so much an error as it was a couple of unnecessary subroutines designed to double-check course and speed prior to committing to the final jump to the engagement point. The additional code caused just enough of a delay so as to put the weapons far to the edge of the impact envelope. When the battleship dropped out of FTL and initiated a turn toward the incoming weapons, the weapons missed.